How about now, Angela? Can you hear me now, Angela? Orangey, can you hear me? All right, I think you can because my other device is telling me you can. So the nation wakes up to election day with heavy hearts and nerves on edge as America's highest of stakes. This is the most pivotal election, people say, ever. I'll just say in modern American history. We have on one side, of course, a candidate that wants to be a dictator on day one, that wants to take America back decades, if not centuries, wants to remove any and all rights that women enjoy, including have autonomy, take the autonomy away from their bodily choices. They One side wants black and brown folks to be subservient. He wants them to, in some cases, as he says, and his surrogates have said, Rudy Giuliani says, back to the jungle. Um, Donald Trump again yesterday referred to the vice president as trash. And on the other side, we have the vice president who is preaching peace, preaching unity, saying we won't go back. She's been joined by a number of celebrities, perhaps just as important, a number of Republicans have said, hey, we can no longer excuse this behavior. We can no longer go along with this behavior. We cannot co sign the craziness, the rhetoric, the danger that is Donald Trump. Here in downtown Washington, you can see that businesses and people in general are as nervous as they've ever been. Even those who feel like they don't even have a stake in this. You see buildings boarded up. You see, it reminds you of 2020, reminds me of 2020 during the civil unrest. There's high stakes here, high anticipation. We're going to bring you sights and sounds throughout the day. We're going to show you a White House that you will not recognize, folks. A White House that looks like it's prepared for. If you ever watched the movie Superman, the first Superman, when they attacked and took the president hostage and attacked the White House, well, it looks sort of like that. It looks like a building that you won't recognize. It is boarded up. It is there. It is blocked off. You need special credentials to go on Pennsylvania Avenue. And Howard University has become a fortress as well. It's where the vice president will be tonight. Perhaps I said with the slip of the tongue, the president, right? Perhaps come tomorrow or late tonight, perhaps she will be president elect. Kamala Harris will be there tonight, and the closest you can get to the campus, really, by vehicle is Howard University Hospital. If anyone knows the area, you know that's about 4 blocks or so down from the campus. It's an actual fortress. You have MPD, Secret Service, and others checking everyone who comes through the area. But all throughout the day, we're going to bring you various guests who are going to be checking in from all across the country, including and especially battleground states, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania. We will be talking about Wisconsin and also even uh, getting some thoughts from out west, where we will bring in some folks from out west as well. So stay tuned throughout the day. Let it be known has it covered. And we are going to drop by on Howard University's campus. We will also be dropping by Roland Martin Unfiltered again. If you're going to look for coverage tonight, folks, turn away from mainstream, turn to Roland Martin Unfiltered. That is where you're going to get the uh, unvarnished truth. You're not going to get the rhetoric that you see on mainstream, and you're going to get a true Black perspective. Orangey says in Detroit, you have armed guards and snipers on the roof to protect polling locations. He says this is the new normal. And certainly, as you go through the district, If you look up, you will certainly see a lot of that as well, Orangey. But we're going to be bringing in various guests throughout the day. We're going to be at different locations throughout the day. We're going to be bringing you on the ground reporting on what is already, as you walk this morning through the streets of DC, already you feel the heaviness of the air. And it's a beautiful morning. My wife would be proud that I was walking this morning. It's a beautiful, beautiful morning out there in Washington. In fact, the weather is going to certainly do its part. Temperatures are forecast to be as high as 80 degrees today on a November fall day. How about that? So we will see what happens. We are going to be, again, talking to various people. And in a little while, we're going to be joined. What's her name again? Holly? Hillary Holley, I'm sorry, who will join us shortly at the top of the hour anyway, as we speak to her about what this election means for her organization, Care in Action. Hillary Holley of Care in Action is going to join us at the top of the hour. Angela Connolly said today is mess around and find out day. It is again an election as we've never seen before. We know that Donald Trump is not going to concede under any circumstances. We were talking with Lauren Burke yesterday during lunch, and her and I seem to be on the same page that something tells her and something tells me that this is going to be a pretty substantial win, sizable lead by the vice president. And even if that were to happen, if that is going to happen, we understand that Donald Trump is planning to still claim victory. We know that they have put some things in motion with the courts already to try and claim that the election is rigged um, without one vote being counted. Mike B says we need a let it be known, get out the vote hoodie. I don't know, Mike B. That's going over the top a little bit, isn't it? But folks, we got a lot to talk about today, really. Just on a news note, just on a side note, yeah, I know I'm a big Prince fan, but Prince's sister, his only full sister, his sister that he shares the same mom and dad with, um, Tyka Nelson, has died at the age of 62. I tell you, these deaths they roll in one after the other. But Prince's sister, who really we didn't really know a whole lot about until Prince's death. She died yesterday. Her family announced her son, and it's interesting because her now Prince's dad, John L. Nelson, named his real name is Prince. Tyka named her children. She has two sons, President and Sir. President Nelson and Sir Nelson. Um, but Prince's sister has died at the age of 62 years old. So our condolences go out to the Nelson uh, family in Minneapolis and wherever else they may be. But a lot again with this election, this turn of Elon Musk, the courts in Pennsylvania have given him the go ahead with that $1 million giveaway. In other words, they say, go ahead and buy the votes. You can do that. You can do that. Again, Hillary Holly's coming up, the executive director of Care in Action. She should be with us at the top of the hour here in Washington, D.C. We're a lot's going on, folks. And again, this situation in Pennsylvania where Elon Musk is paying certain voters and certain people $1 million to side with Donald Trump. The courts have ruled that it is legal. And also this morning, to keep an eye out outside of the election, another storm is brewing off the Caribbean, and it's expected to become a hurricane. Right now, it's called Tropical Storm Raphael, and so the southeast of the United States will again apparently be bracing for another major storm. And and other news, a building at the struggling HBCU Knoxville College was destroyed in a fire yesterday. So more problems for HBCUs. It's another voting issue, isn't it? Because as Trump has falsely claimed and claimed a lot that he's done a lot for HBCUs or more for HBCUs when he really only took photo ops with HBCU presidents. The Biden-Harris administration has given an unprecedented amount of financial aid to HBCUs, and now we see a need for more for Knoxville College, which had a building destroyed in a fire. And we see the situation. And here's another, again, you could tie all this to the election because in North Korea, they are firing multiple ballistic missiles toward the sea ahead of the election. It's a shot by Kim Jong Un and his hatred of the American system. Uh, Vladimir Putin is very active, and we know that he and Trump are. It's been proven they're in bed together. And so this is all that's at stake. There was a bomb plot on cargo planes, DHL being one of the targets, and authorities say Russia is behind that, all to disrupt the U.S. elections, as if there's not enough drama already, folks. There's a whole lot of drama. And some good news too. On election day, Boeing has ended its strike. And so their employees are going back to work. A deal was reached. And again, the Biden Harris administration has certainly been on the side of unions when it comes to these type of negotiations, when it comes to labor unrest. And so they're continuing to work to resolve those type of disputes. Yeah, Mike V says Trump and Putin and their bromance continues. And RG is concerned about the hurricane Raphael that's coming toward. He says he sees that it's coming toward New Orleans and is reminded not only to vote, and HBCU funding is definitely on the ballot. Yeah, and FEMA is on the ballot, right? Because we saw the rhetoric on the last storms that came through Helene, and there was a lot of rhetoric there. Bobby Henry is joining us from Florida right now. I see. Good morning to the chair of the NNPA, who will be doing his 2-minute warning tonight. He has a number of publishers and others calling in from around the country. So you can tune in to Bobby Henry's 2-minute warning tonight, the West Side Gazette. So a lot going on. The Black Press will have it covered for you. You don't have to go to those other folks to try and get information. We will be bringing it to you on various scales. Here, certainly, a let it be known, as we said, throughout the day, we will be at different locations throughout DC coming to you with timely and factual information. And so let's talk about when the polls are open and closed. They're open now. And what time do they close? Well, it depends on where you are. So the first polls will close at 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm sorry, 6 p.m. Eastern, and the last at 1 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday. In between, there will be a steady stream of closings every 30 to 60 minutes, with voting ending in the key presidential swing states between 7 and 10 p.m. Eastern time. So in the central market, you have places like Wisconsin, places like Michigan. They're going to be closing a little bit later. Some places at 8. A lot of polls close at 8 o'clock. There are some that will be closing at 10 o'clock as well. So the first closings are in parts of Indiana and Kentucky, with the western half of Kentucky and two small western corners of Indiana. will stay open for about an hour later. At the federal level, nothing competitive is happening in either state. They are both solidly Republican in the presidential race, and there are no closed House and Senate races there in Indiana and Kentucky. Though Democrats are trying to break the Republican supermajority in the Indiana legislature. So those are things to watch as well. Of course, Georgia is one of 7 key states in the presidential race, and it tends to count votes pretty quickly. And a judge's ruling recently said that they needed to get those votes counted immediately. So we'll be looking for that. President Biden won Georgia in 2020 by a little less than 12,000 votes. So based on that, it could still mean a very long wait for a winner there. In Virginia, there are competitive House races in the second and seventh district, and in Florida, down in Bobby Henry's world, Democrats have a long shot opportunity to flip a Senate seat. So we'll be watching closely the results of a referendum there that would enshrine abortion rights in the Florida Constitution. That needs a supermajority of 60% of the vote to pass. And keep in mind that the polls in part of the state's conservative panhandle will open for another hour. In North Carolina and Ohio, they are also key states. Danielle Pierre says there in Florida, it's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. North Carolina and Ohio, key states, and the polls also closed in West Virginia, also pretty early. So yeah, watch that. The governor's race there. We know about Mark Robinson and the lieutenant governor, who is totally off his rocker, to say the least, and to be polite about it. So meanwhile, Ohio is not necessarily competitive in the presidential election, but it is one of those states where control of the Senate will be decided. Senator Sherrod Brown, who's a Democrat, is running for re-election against the Republican Bernie Moreno. And so there'll be close eyes there as well. And the big ones, with polls closing in a slew of states, including the battlegrounds of Michigan and Pennsylvania. A few counties in Michigan's upper peninsula will be open for about an hour later. There are 2 of the 3 blue wall states that Donald Trump flipped in 2016, but Biden won back in 2020. And they could very well determine the outcome of the presidential election this year. They each have competitive Senate races and multiple close House races. And remember with the House, if the Democrats take the House, that means you will have a Black Speaker of the House for the first time. And so that's a crucial one to watch as well. And of course, the Senate race in Texas, where Ted Cruz is going up against Colin Allred. And of course, Missouri also has an abortion rights referendum. So we're watching a lot to be covered today, Election Day. So glad it's here so we can get this thing over with. So we can talk about something else and perhaps talk about something else under the administration of Vice President Kamala Harris or President Kamala Harris. So we will see, and we won't have to worry about hearing folks mispronounce her name too much longer, at least intentionally mispronounce her name. There's Arizona and Wisconsin. They are 2 key states to watch at this point. They will be the 5th and 6th of the presidential swing states to finish voting, leaving only Nevada still open. And Nevada is right now, there are some who are saying or predicting the vice president to win Nevada, although others are saying, wait a minute, that is going in there. It's too close to call. In fact, one individual who is predicting a Harris victory in Nevada even admits that we're talking about a race in which we are about 2 percentage points of a difference right now, according to exit polling that has gone on with early voting. Iowa is also in play. We talked about Iowa a bit yesterday. According to polling right now, the vice president has a shockingly 4% lead, a 4 percentage point lead there in Iowa. So it is shaping up to be really interesting. Hawaii, of course, In Alaska, their polls close at 11 midnight. Well, Hawaii's at 11, Alaska's at midnight. So keep up with everything here. Um, Tonight
He
we
is
are
bringing in the guests
uh,
now.
now,
As we
we
said
said
at the
at the
top
top
of
of
the
the hour,
hour, we do have a special guest joining us now. Hillary Holley is joining us now on Let It Be Known. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you this morning.
Good morning and happy Election Day.
Okay, so I'm having a little difficulty hearing Hillary Holley right now. So we're trying to get that together. Care in Action is, she's the executive director of Care in Action. And okay, okay, here we go. I think we got you now. Hillary Holley, welcome to Let It Be Known.
Hi and happy Election Day.
No, I don't have her. I don't have Hillary Holley. Okay. Folks, we are, you know what happens when it's live. So we are, let's see. So where are we going with the speaker? All right. All right, let's see. Get
your speaker and your mic
to the computer. Okay. Now, here we go. All right, Hillary Holley, can we get you now?
Hello?
No? All right, let me try one other thing here. All right, I don't hear her.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, it is. I'm sorry, folks. We just running through some live stuff here that is okay. I am speaking and I'm looking. Okay, can you hear me, Miss Holley?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not hearing her. Yeah, I am changing that, and I'm not hearing anything. It's right now. I've changed it to Real Tech and default, and I'm not hearing anything. Neither one of them. I'm sorry, Miss Holly. We'll get this together, folks. Let me see if I can hear you now with these headsets. Okay, as I lean forward. All right, and now my camera has gone out. Okay, can I get you to say hello, Miss Holly?
Good morning.
All right, so now I need to now I need to come back on the screen. So we're so sorry about these technical difficulties that we're having so far this morning. It's just one of those mornings.
And listen, it's been a long election cycle. We are here.
It's been a long year.
That too.
All right, here we go. All right. I can hear her and I can see her. And now we can get this thing going before RNG starts yelling at me. So, Ms. Holley, Care in Action. Tell us a little bit about Care in Action. We know that you guys do a lot when it comes for fighting for dignity and justice for domestic workers. Tell us a little bit more about Care in Action.
Yes, so Care in Action is the political home for domestic workers and care workers. So these are the women who care for our children. They care for our aging loved ones. They support folks with disabilities. And as many people may not know, they have very little federal protections. However, they are the matriarchs of our communities and our families, and they are some of the most essential workers in this economy. And so what we do at Care in Action is we help elect leaders who will really champion worker power, help make sure that our workers have benefits, but also helping families be able to afford childcare and afford aging and disability care and have access to paid leave. And so that's what we've been doing here at Care in Action this election cycle.
So with today's election shaping the direction of labor and immigration policies, what specific risks or opportunities do you see for workers depending on the outcome of this election?
Yes, I have been so incredibly excited to see Vice President Harris and Governor Walz really champion the care agenda, right? We have seen Vice President Harris talk about caregiving and talk about what she says is the sandwich generation, that there are millions and millions of us who have little kids to care for and are looking at our parents who are retiring, they are aging, and they deserve to age in dignity. She has been dropping policy proposals such as having long-term disability care be covered by Medicare, so families don't have to go broke, just to make sure that our aging parent can have a meal, being able to take their prescription drugs or get dressed in the morning. We've also seen Governor Walz say that it is beyond time for our country to have a federal paid leave program. This means that the government will work with small businesses and large businesses. So where if I get sick or you get sick or my kid gets sick, we can take off work and not worry about not being able to pay the bills. And these policies are already having bipartisan support. So if she is elected, I really think we can get some of these life-changing economic policies done.
Yeah, wow, you've articulated that to show the vitalness of this a shift in Congress. Let's talk about that, if you will. How might that impact their wages, their protections, and worker conditions?
So here's the thing. One thing that COVID did was it really exposed the need for a strong care economy, right? When you are trying to get millions of workers to enter back into the workforce, we have to think about workers in their lives. And so we are seeing even Republicans in Congress talk about how childcare is in fact infrastructure. So is home care is infrastructure. So we most likely will come out with a divided Congress after this evening or the week to come. Yeah. But because of this crisis and because this country and we are finally realizing the full infrastructure needed to support our communities and workers, I still think that we're going to be able to negotiate some of these policies.
Yeah, and if you will, talk about the broader impact this election may have, particularly on women and women of color.
Yes, I think, what we keep hearing. So one of our biggest programs at Care in Action is we have knocked on over 300,000 doors. Wow. And we have talked, we have made over 3 million phone calls. And these are all women of color who have a 70% chance of not voting. And what we hear from them constantly is they need financial support, right? They, like I said earlier, they are caring for everybody and a lot of the Black men too. But women of color, we're still living in a world where a lot of this is expected to lay on us. And so I am concerned that if Trump were to win, Donald Trump is not going to care about having a paid leave program. Donald Trump isn't going to care that a woman who has 3 kids and aging parents or aunts, and she's having to juggle between all these folks and be able to put food on the table, make sure that the rent is paid. He's going to care more about giving billionaires even more tax cuts, and which will take away funding for our moms and for our aunts and for our sisters and people like me. And so that's really at stake for women of color, on top of the racism that we are going to see, on top of our kids' public schools being attacked and defunded, right? So there is so much at stake for this election.
Well, and immigrants as well, right? We know domestic workers, immigrants make up a nice portion of domestic workers as well. I know that's a concern.
Yes. So I would say around 50% of the 400,000 workers we represent are immigrants. Some of them are undocumented. And these are immigrants from Central America, South America, the Caribbean, the Philippines. And again, these are essential workers. So there are families who, if these workers were to be deported because of these mass deportations without care, without any kind of due process, these families wouldn't be able to go to work, Our kids would not have anyone to watch them during the school day. We will have even more elders sitting in their homes by themselves, not being able to cook, not being able to bathe themselves, right? And so this will impact their families. This will impact them by being, deported back into countries that are dealing with wars, and dealing with, even though they are doing some of the most essential contributions to this economy. And so that's one of the things that we are also prepared for. That is, if Trump is elected, we are going to turn our entire operation into protecting each and every one of the workers we represent. We are going to do know your rights trainings. We are going to work with immigrant rights law firms to make sure that we are, and making sure that these families and these workers are protected, because one, they deserve it. They are humans. But two, our economy will suffer if this were to happen.
And folks will say, well, he was president for 4 years, and immigrants and others survived. What's your response to something like that?
We were so close to passing one of the most consequential economic policies in the CARE agenda during Build Back Better. And this was systemic changes to how we fund childcare, right? Treating these small businesses, daycare facilities, as essential needs to our economy. We were going to make a federal paid leave program. And during this time, Biden and Vice President Harris pushed it all the way to the finish line. However, we had Republicans playing with politics during this time. And so what Biden and Vice President did is, when the Republicans in Congress failed, not Biden and not Harris failed, they actually did one of the most amazing CARE executive orders, right? They used their administrative power to make sure that the $1 trillion investment we got in childcare and elder care was that they directed over 50 agencies to start making sure that all these federal monies are protecting and going into these programs, while the Republicans in Congress blocked several of these. So it's not that they haven't done anything, it's that they have done everything they can and has made some huge progress through these executive orders. But again, this is where this election is so critical, because what we have seen now is the voters, even Republican voters, are demanding that we actually get this through in this next Congress. And we didn't really have that demand going into 2020, but now we have it. So I really think that if we elect Harris, and if we hold the Congress, again, we can do bipartisan. We have a bipartisan approach and finally get this done.
Yeah, you mentioned a little earlier the amount of support that you've gotten this election season with the phone calls, with the canvassing. How encouraged are you that things are going to go the right way tonight? And have you seen, are you encouraged also by how people have responded to what Care in Action is doing?
Yes. I was actually in Concord, North Carolina all weekend with 60 domestic workers, and we knocked on over 25,000 doors and had some very good conversations, right? We had several folks saying that they are excited, that they are planning on voting today. Many of their families had already voted in North Carolina's early vote. But we had some people who they said they were undecided, and not undecided on who to vote for, on whether or not to vote. However, when we were able to talk to them about these policy plans that I've laid out, and really laid out how Harris has been working towards this, and she actually has a plan. And then when I told them about all the tax cuts that Trump is going to give to billionaires, which will essentially defund all these programs that our communities rely on, they said, you know what? It's clear. It's very clear what I need to do. I also saw Black men who people keep saying, oh, they're lost. Yep. We're going to lose them. We had one Black man in North Carolina. He said, you know what? I care about all these policies that you all are talking about, but democracy is at stake. So I am going to vote because I want to make sure that this election is not the last election. So I am very hopeful. And I also want people to remember the popular vote is on our side, right?
Mhm.
Kamala Harris is going to win the popular vote by millions of votes. It is the electoral college right now that is tied. And so, but even looking through that electoral college lens, and after being on the ground this weekend in North Carolina, Arizona, in Georgia, I really think that voters understand what's at stake. And I think America's going to do the right thing tonight.
Well, it sounds like Karen Action is also educating folks because, as you said, you have these you ran into these undecideds, and not necessarily undecided on who, but as whether or not they were actually going to cast a vote, because they didn't know they didn't know the policies, they didn't know what was really at stake.
Yes. And this is why I think organizations like Care in Action and labor organizations, we play such a crucial role in the voter education, because here's the thing, the workers that I was canvassing alongside of, they have actually been able to work with the administration. They have actually been able to go into the state capitol so they can share with so many of these folks. Like, I have talked to this this elected official, or I have gotten to sit down with this candidate, and they can tell them this, like, what is real and what is the truth. And it's because that we engage in this work every single year, every day. And so
Right.
that's what makes this very, very special.
Wow. And so, having done all of that, I have to bring it down to this. Tonight, are you confident? Are you confident that this is going to turn out well?
I do, and I think I'm confident in the way that voters our people are voting. We are set to, we are on pace to meet 2020 turnout, which was historical. But what also gives me confidence is, before I came to Care in Action, I worked in the voting rights space at Stacey Abrams' organization, Fair Fight. And what I've seen is so many of these voting rights organizations are ready, right? They are ready to make sure that we count every single vote. They are going to make sure that our poll workers are protected while they do this very tedious work, right? We have a whole coalition that's ready to talk about any signs of election certification issues we may see. And so I feel confident in the voters, but I also feel confident in these voting rights coalitions to protect every single vote that's going to be counted. And it's going to take a while. We might know Georgia tonight, we might know North Carolina tonight, but we might not know Arizona, we might not know Nevada, and we might not know Wisconsin nor Pennsylvania. And that is going to be okay, because they are going to be counting every vote. And we're going to have people who believe in democracy right there to observe and make sure that everything is being followed by the law, and that your vote and your voice is going to be counted.
Before we let you go, Hillary Holley, we have been talking about, and if you go around Washington, D.C., you see buildings boarded up. You see even the White House boarded up pretty much. This threat of violence. Our care workers, and as you mentioned, a good chunk are immigrants. Are they afraid of repercussions from the other side if indeed the vice president wins the election? Are they afraid of violence against them, or heightened violence against them?
I think the other, like I was saying earlier about the beautiful community we build through labor organizations and worker organizations, is when you have a political home, when you have an organization full of people that you trust, it really helps that anxiety. So, for example, on November 7th, we are going to do a mass call with the workers to make sure that they are getting communications from us. But we also have the mechanism where, if we need to do a mass call with the workers tonight or tomorrow, we will be able to do so. And so I think this is why, to all the listeners out there, finding political homes really matter, because you will get to have a community around you during times like this. And so, yes, some folks were, had anxieties and had concerns, but because we all have a way of staying together and sharing information, it really makes you feel like you are empowered no matter what Trump and these right-wing anti-democracy folks are going to do.
And where do folks get more information about CARE in Action?
Yes, so you can go to careinaction.us and get involved. You can become a member, right? So we're not just a worker organization, that's a part of it. If you rely on affordable childcare, if you have an aging loved one, or you are someone who are aging and wants to have what I said, this political home, please become a member, because Election Day is just one piece, right? When these folks get elected, we are going to have to advocate to make sure we get this done. So become a member. You'll get updates from us. You'll get texts from us. And we will make sure that everything that we do is a collective, and we're going to win for our people.
Wow. Good stuff. I'm Hillary Holley of CARE in Action. Thanks so much for joining Let It Be Known this morning. We really appreciate you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And folks, stay tuned. We have a lot of coverage today. Again, so many folks going to be dropping in. We're going to be all around DC. We're going to blanket this city. So join us. And again, you got to see these sites that we're going to show you. The White House, especially. I just found it to be absolutely fascinating. So join us tonight. And again, join us tonight. We're gonna hop on over to Roland Martin Unfiltered as well. So join us over there too. And we will see you later today. Thanks for watching.